slopping and dumping sewage all over the planet by the Justin Trudeau's and the Queen Elizabeth's Buckingham Palace. Slopping and dumping sewage and flushing it down all the rivers with the damn dams by people like Andy Cuomo, the architect, the engineer of the nursing home murders, sticking COVID patients in with the senior citizens. Now, what's fascinating about all this sewage being slopped like all over Canada and slopped all over England and slopped all over China? They have a population problem in China, by the way. They got too many people. Let's see. There's a number of people around the world that are familiar with eugenics and what you call population control. You know, killing off millions of people, especially when you own the pension funds, like the Canadian Public Employees Pension Funds in Ottawa that control all the sewers in England. Where last year, 400,000 massive dumpings of sewage all over England and all the rivers and the creeks and the streams, all over England. The Ottawa Public Pension Fund, controlled by Justin Trudeau's buddies. Yep, and Andy Cuomo's buddies there with the New York State Power Authority and the New York State Public Employees Pension System. Dumping and slopping sewage and flushing it down the rivers like in the St. Lawrence and in the Chesapeake Bay and in the Connecticut River and the Hudson River and the Mississippi River and the Ohio River and the Tennessee River and the Great Lakes. Oh, God, the Great Lakes are nothing but giant septic tanks, just like Lake George, New York. Just like Lake George, New York, with its 6,000 septic tanks all around the shores of the lake, built right on the shoreline, right on top of bedrock. Yeah, if you think I'm fooling around, just call up the Glens Falls Post-Star and the Lake George Mirror and the Adirondack Explorer and the Adirondack Almanac and the New York Times and the Albany Times-Union and the Troy Record. 6,000 septic tanks right on the shoreline, sitting on top of bedrock, draining all that sewage into Lake George, New York, the big septic tank, the queen of America's cesspools, Lake George, New York. Yep, that's the way it is, folks. And gee golly whiz, the excreta, the sputum of bats. That's how the reservoir of bat viruses are spread all over the planet. It's in the bat shit and in the bat piss, the bat guano, as they call it. That's how the bats spread it all over the place, is in their sewage. And gee golly whiz, I wonder where the bats are getting sick. How are the bats getting infected? Would that be from all the sewage being slopped and dumped all over the planet by the biggest financial interests like Buckingham Palace and Andy Cuomo and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and the Clintons? And let's see, let's go on here. Yeah, Arkansas is full of it. Arkansas is full of shit being dumped all over the place. Isn't this true, Hillary Clinton? Yeah, buddy. I wonder how many people never get to collect their pensions because they get sick and they die. Population control. Gee golly whiz, I wonder how these bioterrorists accomplish it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it right there. And as always, the Punisher mentioned James Whitey Bulger. The Punisher mentioned James Whitey Bulger in his most recent video on April Fool's Day. Ain't that fascinating, Mr. Dunham, that you'd mention James Whitey Bulger?